can see the screen. Thank you, Arpine. Welcome to the session. Hi, Sergey. Everyone else can hear me well. Ciao, Radzmik. Fantastic. Okay, maybe we give them another couple of minutes because I think they're still coming in the Zoom, Tigran. Okay, so while the people are connected online, very briefly, I would like to introduce myself. Are we waiting for all participants to come? So I'm Maya Rossi, I'm a sustainability professional, and my expertise come from the oil and gas industry, mainly in construction industry. I have a focus on climate change and biodiversity, and I work a little bit all over the world in these 15 years. And lately, I've been focusing on the transition to low carbon economy and climate finance and sustainable finance. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, this is my LinkedIn profile, so feel free to connect and also to ask Tigran my details and really to ask me whatever you want to. So meanwhile, I think we are quite connected. Arthur, Mariana, can you do a thumb up? You can see the presentation. You can hear me well. Oh, I can see someone is turning on the video. What a nice thing. Hello, hi. Open this nature, you won't receive any grades. It's really just for you to check what stays with you from the session of yesterday. So it's 10 questions. I'll give you 20 minutes to complete them. You can have a little discussion with Tigran in the where whoever is at the hotel, and you can have a little discussion online if you want to. And then after that, I will give you all the correct answers and we will go through a little bit of a recap session. We will be finishing by probably in like 45 minutes maximum, depending on how the discussion goes. And then we will spend the next 2 hours really diving deep into Armenia Climate Challenge, Armenia Nationally Determined Contribution, and other regulation. And then Tigran will close the floor with a description of the scaling up green finance practices in Armenian program. Is it everything okay? Good. Okay, so take pen and paper for the ones that still like pen and paper, or your telephone, and let's go with the quiz time. First, what is global warming? You can see you have 3 choices, A, B, C. Is it a long-term heating of Earth climate system? Or is it a complex shift that emerged due to human activity that affect the planet's weather and climate system? Or is it a short-term shift in regional weather patterns? What do we mean with global warming? What is it, global warming? So as I can't see the people on the in the training in the hotel, I'll use the online people. Let me know when you have finished with this question.
I'm sorry, we should submit our answers via chat.
Oh, that would be great. Amazing.
Okay.
Who's speaking? Yervant?
Yes.
Okay. So let's wait to submit it until everybody is done. Eh? Let's wait. Don't do it yet. Okay, just do it. Okay, fine. Okay. We have a mix of reply. What about the people on the floor? Submit your...
We should submit, can we say, just,
Yeah,
the answer from the whole is B.
it's B, global warming B. Okay, let's move. Has everybody answered? Shall we move to the next one? Let's move. What is it that is climate change? What is it that is climate change? Is it a short-term shift in regional weather patterns? Is it a long-term heating of Earth climate system? Or is it, Yerevan, please use English alphabetics. Thank you, otherwise I can't say. What is it? Submit your answer. When you submit your answer, please put the numbers. So for example, 2, that would be 2 plus the letter. 2A, exactly, or 2B. Yes, very good. With the numbers, so you will remember which answer.
Climate change.
What do we mean by climate change? What's the definition of climate change?
Which increases heat trapping greenhouse gas levels in the Earth's atmosphere.
I should have prepared like a little music.
Can we ask our colleagues to mute their microphones?
Yeah. Colleagues at Tigran, can you mute yourself and unmute when you have the answer?
For B, but we also have answer for A. So,
what is your answer for this question?
Yeah,
okay, let's
decide one.
Let's say B.
2B. Okay, 1B.
Huh?
B. Okay. Can you mute yourself? So ladies, can you mute yourself, please? So we... Okay, are you ready? Shall we go on the third one? Let's go. So what correlation does exist between temperature rise and carbon dioxide, CO2? Are they correlated? No. Are they correlated? Yes. The less CO2 emission, the more the temperature rise. Are they correlated? Yes. The more CO2 emission, the more the temperature rise. What is your answer? I should have prepared this little music, you know, ta 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 ta, something like that to create suspense. I didn't. Very good. We start having our reply. If you put the number, you will remember which one you're replying. Very good. Very good. My online people are very fast. Marianna, Sergey, Ranzmi, can you access the chat as well? Thank you, Arthur.
Answer C of that question.
Number C for the floor. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Shall we move on? Let's go. Number 4. Number 4. That's a bit technical. How many degrees Celsius of warming, global warming, we should limit to in order to limit the effects of climate change on our ecosystem and our existence? 1.8 degrees above pre-industrial level, 1.5 to 2 degrees above pre-industrial level, 0.8 degrees in total. Number 4.
Answer B.
Answer B from the floor. Floor, you have to tell us at the very end. You have to be the last one.
Okay.
Because you are much more people, so otherwise Arthur doesn't want to. You don't like this question, Arthur. Okay, good. So from the floor for B. Okay. Very good. Very good. So if someone new is joining, we are doing a little quiz time, which is not an exam, it's just for you. It's for you to test your knowledge, your understanding. It's only internal. So, okay.
There is no any prizes for winners.
No prizes. No, we should think about it for the next one. Tigran and
Yes,
I will
please.
come up with something like donuts or something. Okay, Mariana, do we have, sorry. Okay, so next question. Acronyms. You know that language is very complicated when it comes to climate finance because it's full of acronyms and jargon. So let's see how you interact with this language. What is one of the three, there are many others, of the three key conventions on climate change? IPPC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, UNCCC, United Nations Convention on Climate Change, UN SDGs, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. Number 5. Number 5, the floor is starting. Number 5. Very good. Very good. Online people, Sergey, Mariana, Razmik has already replied very well. Arthur has replied. Another minute before we go.
Can we already say our answer?
Give us 1 second. I
Okay.
still have some people that have not replied. Not sure, Sergey, not sure. Good to try, very good. Okay, Flor, what's your answer, Flor?
For the fifth question, the answer is B. Yes,
B?
as we meet between each other.
Okay, let's move to the 6, number 6. That's an open one. What does ESG stand for? Do you remember this acronym we used yesterday quite a lot? What does ESG stand for? Very interesting when people put the end. It's very interesting because if you read it in one way, it could mean one thing. If you read it in another way, it could mean another thing. Very interesting. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Flor, what's your take?
We stand for environmental and social governance.
So environmental and social government. Okay. Okay, let's move number 7. What do we intend when we say that a project is using mitigation initiatives? Is it a mitigation initiative, an initiative which avoids or reduces greenhouse gases or enhance greenhouse gases sequestration and contributes to the stabilization of atmospheric GHG in alignment with the Paris agreements? Or is it one initiative which builds the long-term resilience of people, livelihoods, and places? What is it, your answer? Number 7. Number 7. What is your answer, number 7? Give you a couple of minutes. We're nearly there. My online guys are divided, 50-50. Okay, Floor, what's your answer? 7A from the floor. Okay. Let's move. Number 8. I hear you well, but you can't turn. Don't worry, Mariana. Just put the answer on the chat. It's perfectly fine if you can't turn the camera on. Don't worry. Just, yeah, I'm happy you can hear me well. What does the term sustainable finance commonly stand for? Process of taking due account of environmental, social, and governance consideration in investment decision. It refers to climate change mitigation and adaptation, as well as the environment. B is an umbrella term to define the financing of investments that provide environmental benefits in the broader context of environmentally sustainable development. My people online, what's your take? This is very important because you will hear very many different versions of sustainable green climate finance. And so it's very important to be aligned on what these terms mean. What are they? Okay. Very good. Floor, what's your answer?
B, our answer is B.
Your answer is B.
Number 11.
Okay. Thank you, Mariana. Okay, number 9. Number 9. How many SDGs the UN launched in 2015? 21, 15, 17. How many Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, the UN launched in 2015 as part of Agenda 2030? How many do we have? I like the guys are replying with the number, not the letter. That's fine. How many SDGs do we have? Another minute and we will arrive to the last one. Okay, Floor, what's your answer?
For the ninth question, the answer is C.
C. Okay, last question. What are the nationally determined contribution NDCs? NDCs are official documents prepared by the countries to access climate finance towards a process of accreditation. NDS. Ooh, I spell it wrongly. See, nobody tell me anything. Thank you. NDCs are country sustainable reports which indicate the effort that the country is doing towards the UN SDGs. NDCs embody efforts by each country to reduce national emission and adapt to the impacts of climate change. What is it? What is it? What is it? Okay, what is your answer, Floor?
C.
C. Okay, I give you 1 minute. You can put together your answer in paper, just summarize them, and then I'll show you one. I'll show you, not sure. Do you want to see the result first or one by one? Let's do one by one. It's probably more interesting. Okay. Are we ready? Context of change. What was your answer to question number 1? What is it, global warming? A long-term heating or a complex shift? Global warming is the long-term heating of Earth's climate system observed since the pre-industrial period between the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, really, due to human activities, primarily fossil fuel burning, which increases heat-trapping greenhouse gas levels in the Earth's atmosphere. That's the definition from the NASA. It's a good one. It's quite a simple one. That's global warming. So one was 1A. Tick it if you tick it right, tick it if you tick it wrong. 1A. Number 2. Number 2 was, what is climate change? What is it, climate change? Definition. Climate change refers to the complex shift that emerged due to human activity, so greenhouse gas emission into the atmosphere, that affect the planet's weather and climate system, and that's from the National Geographic. So the warming, global warming refers to the long-term heating of the atmosphere. Climate change refers to the complex shift, because it can be warming, but it also can materialize in other different weather conditions. So it's called climate change. It's a shift, is where the human being really make the climate change. So that's why it's climate change. So 2 was number C, 1A to C. Let's go now 3. Which correlation exists between temperature rise and CO2? So this is, like you can see, is the temperature rise between the end of the 19th century and the beginning and nowadays. 2020. And that's the relationship between carbon dioxide and temperature rising. So as you can see, it's not linear, but it's very connected. So the more CO2 we emit, CO2 and other greenhouse gases, we refer to CO2 only, the more the temperature rise. It's not a linear, but it's definitely an algorithm in relation. The more CO2, the more emission. So 3 was number C, 3C, 3C. Number 4. How many degrees Celsius of warming we should limit to in order to mild the effects of climate change? And this, I think most of you got it right. 1.5 to 2. Actually, 1.5 is quite hard to stick to it, but it's where the EPPC and the Paris Agreement are aiming to. 1.5 to 2 degrees. Why? Because at 2 degree extreme heat will be 2.6 times worse. The world will experience 10 per more ice-free summers. There will be 2 per more species loss. Ecosystem shift will be nearly 2 worse. There will be a very high reduction in crop yields. There will be food insecurity, and nearly 30% further decline in coral reef, which also will bring a decline in fish stock. So again, is a food security problem. Okay, so I think most of you got this right. And that was number 4. And it was B, 4B. Now, number 5. What is one of the 3 conventions on climate change? That was more difficult because acronyms, because language, because you probably haven't heard about them. So these are the 3 main conventions we talked about yesterday. They are originated from the historical, Rio Convention in 1992. And we have the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, also called the CCC, UNFCCC, the Convention on Biological Diversity, which actually has its own COP. Like, you know, the COP in Glasgow this year was from the UNFCCC. Also, the Convention on Biological Diversity has its own conference of parties, COP. This year, I think, is in China. And 3 United Nations Conventions to combat desertification, UNCCD. These are the 3 key conventions. And that was number 5B. The other 2 are, they're very important, but they're not convention. They are different things. This is a very interesting one. So what does ESG stand for? So most of you got it right in terms of acronym, environmental, social, and governance. I was very surprised to see where people put the "and", because environmental and social governance, it looks like a governance that is both environmental and social. Environmental, social, and governance is probably right, because there are 3 different terms. It's environmental factors, social factors, and governance factors. So it's not environmental and social standard or environmental and social governance. It's 3 different key areas, 3 different set of factors, which belongs to the environmental, the social, and the governance area. So be careful where you put the "and", because it can change the meaning of it. But most of you got the acronym right very well. What do we intend with mitigation initiatives? So I have to be honest with you, I still, 15 years on, sometimes need to kind of refresh my memory, because mitigation and adaptation is not really immediate. However, mitigation is one initiative which avoid or reduce greenhouse gases emission, while adaptation is the initiative that builds the long-term resilience of people and livelihoods. So one way of remember that, you have to remember that when you mitigate, you actually can act on the emission of greenhouse gases. When you adapt, you're not acting on reducing emission. You are trying to adapt the environment and the community to the effect of it. So if you remember this, it will be probably easy. So 7 was number A, 7A. Most of you got it right, I have to say. And yes, here, these are the two definitions from the UNFCCC, which we remember being one of the biggest key convention. Okay, the next one was on climate finance, sustainable finance. What does the term sustainable finance commonly stand for? So we have many different terms. We have climate, we have sustainable, we have green, we have low carbon. So sustainable, you have to think back to ESG. Sustainable is environmental, social, and governance. Sustainable is wider. It embraces more concept. Green, which is a terrible term, by the way, because what does it mean? I don't know. However, green and brown is commonly used. Green is really everything that embraces environmental issues. So everything that is environmental, not only climate, but water resources, biodiversity, pollution, waste, that's green. Then we have climate finance, which is really about climate change, and a niche of it is low carbon. So what is the reply to it? Is A. Is A, because it takes in account environmental, social, and governance. While B, if you look at it, is an umbrella term. This is green finance. Is an umbrella term to define the financing of investments that provide environmental benefit in the broader context of environmental sustainable development. So the focus is there. Number 9, so this is A, 8A. Number 9, how many SDGs the UN launched? And I think you got them right, all of you. Very well done. 17. So it's really 16 plus 1 because the last one is partnership, but it's 17. Very well done. So I think you get them all. And here, just a little recap on the intersection between SDGs and ESG. So if you look at the SDG, you can be able to group them towards the 3 factors: environmental, social, and governance. So it's a good exercise if you want to do it. Also to start understand ESG as a framework and the relationship with finance. Okay. Number 10 was probably the most technical one. What is a national determined contribution? So a national determined contribution embodies the effort by each country to reduce national emission and adapt to the impacts of climate change. So 10C. 10C, this is what a nationally determined contribution is. It's true that also governments do they do report on UN SDGs, but they are not called national determined contribution. So the national determined contribution really came from the Paris Agreement and is where the countries are taking action to limit and reduce their greenhouse gas emission. And that's it. So to summarize, 1A, 2C, 3C, 4B, 5B, 6, environmental, social, and governance, 7B, 8A, 9C, 10C. Tell me how you did. How you did. So let's say you have to get at least 6 right. Do we have 6 right?
Yes.
How was it? Yes? Yoo-hoo! Oh, so very good. You have to tell me how you find it, because so I can level the content, because you know these are complex stuff. Climate finance is complex stuff, and if you have not been exposed to it before, it can be very difficult to grasp all the concept. So please do use this time, this training, to really ask me any question, anything, because the moment you will understand that, you will have a superpower, because this climate finance is going to stay for the next 20 years. So the more you become knowledgeable about it, you really will have a power for your career, not only to make good, but also to really understand what the project are about. What does it mean? Why are you doing something? So I think it's really important, and I'm at your complete, service. So please feel free to ask me anything. That was the recap of yesterday's session. Tigran, do you want to have 15 minutes to discuss a bit in Armenian, and then we can connect and I can start the new content, which is really the Armenian climate change, and we will go a little bit more deep into Armenian context. Tigran, let me know if you want to have 10 minutes Armenian discussion.
Maya, I think we can now do a small break for 5-10 minutes. Check. I have a full support from the ground, so yeah, you can see encouraging voices. We do 5-10 minutes break, and then we start with Armenian part recap, and in any case, I will share later with the presentation. I prepared quite comprehensive overview of climate challenges, then the role of MDBs in financing this, and some information about scaling up green finance practices in Armenia, milestones next.
Okay.
So quite comprehensive overview. So let's then, I think you don't need to stay, with us. We will continue. Yeah, and this much.
Okay. I prepared a full presentation on the climate change and NDCs. I thought it was my part. So if you want,
no, I followed your instructions via email, and I prepared it already. So
okay, so basically the idea was sorry, maybe I made a mistake. By the way, for everything else is break, we're just discussing for next step. So see you in 5 minutes. Bye-bye. Okay, so let me quickly check the
5-10 minutes
maybe.
break.
Yeah. So Tigran, if you can stay in the line. Training kickoff. Yeah, as you can see, the idea was Tigran recap, which I done, Maya recap, which I done, Maya Armenia slides, and then Tigran Armenian NG and Green Climate Fund. So just let me know if you want me to show what I've prepared, or you don't need me. I'm fine with whatever you decide.
We can start. I mean, if you don't have anything, if you can stay with us another 20 minutes or 15 minutes after coffee break, then you can show your part and I will skip mine. It's no problem. In any case, I have
whatever
in my
you want.
I have in my presentation this part covered, but we will be delighted to see your presentation, and then we will follow up. My idea was not to keep you unnecessarily busy with us. That was.
That's nice. Thank you.
Okay, so we will.
Since I have already prepared it, I'll show you, and then you do whatever you want with it, and then you take it from there as you want.
Of course, Maya. Yeah, of course, yeah, of course.
See you in 10 minutes. Bye.
Hello, we are back. Sorry for being late, Maya, but it was really interesting discussion during the coffee break. Yeah, so
Tell me more. I'm
that's
curious.
that's why it's advantage for those who are with us. So yeah, we will not share details, but it was really interesting. Interesting
Was it like a
discussion.
top secret conversation? I'm very jealous. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Tigran, I can do like half an hour, so then you take it from there. And if there is anything, I plan it for like 2 hours. I kind of condense it in half an hours. And if there is anything that is interesting, we can repeat it tomorrow in the next module, not tomorrow, Friday or whatever. Okay. Okay. Before we start, are my online people back? Can you thumb up or just say X on the chat? Just let me know you're there. You can. Ciao Arpine, Arpine or Arpine?
Arpine.
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 Ciao Yervand. Hello Razmik. We have a new entry, Sona. Ciao Sona. I haven't seen you before. Okay, people let me know if you're back so we can start. Marianna, Sergey, Arthur. Ciao Ani. Okay. Let me share my screen. Ciao, Arthur. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good. So we have now touched on the basics, really, the fundamentals, so green finance and the terms and climate change in general, etc. But what about Armenia? What is the case for Armenia? What are the characteristics specific to Armenia? So let's go and have a look. As usual, please feel free to ask anything in the chat or, okay. So you are quite lucky because Armenia is quite diverse. Your climate can be described like island continental. You have large variation between summer heights, where it's hot, and winter lows where it's quite cold. But I don't have to explain that to you. I just want to classify that from a climate point of view. So you go from an arid to subtropical to a cold high mountains kind of climate. Precipitation, rains and snow is obviously greater in the altitude region, and you also experience sub-zero average temperature in the mountains. So this is like a very different territory with very different climate. This is important because obviously when a region is quite homogeneous, where it presents the same factors, then it's easier to predict. If you have many different factors and many different climate, then it will be more complex for the model to predict. So we're going to see that in a minute. But question time. What are the main climate change trends observed in Armenia in the last 40 years, in your opinion? Rise of temperature, more frequent cyclones, or more, sorry, that is missing, more droughts. You can choose more than one. You can choose more than one. So what are the main climate change trends observed in Armenia from a climate point of view in the last years, in your opinion? Rise of temperature, so people are kind of agree on rise of temperature. What about cyclones? What about droughts? Rise of temperature. Okay, what the floor said, Tigran, what's your answer?
You don't expect me to answer, so better I ask the colleagues from the ground. Yeah. Here, colleagues incline to basically A and B, though
yeah.
In some, we also noticed that For example, rise of temperature also results in a number of other climate impacts. Yeah, so but that's why we have chosen A and B, but like A is more overarching and with different kind of impacts. Yeah.
So the answer to this question is all of them. If you look at the anomalies in the chart and where Armenia sits, you really are in the focal points of the rise in temperature, which, so A was surely correct, which will give more extreme events and which will give more drought events. So really temperature is high temperature, higher temperature is Armenia weaknesses in the decades to come. So this is the trend. As you can see, the trend is start going up from 2000, from the early 2000. And if you want to know more, so obviously this is what the foreign national communication, so the official sources are telling us. So they're telling they already experienced 1 degree 23 degrees Celsius rise in temperature. And we have a new record in July in Yerevan reaching 42 degrees. So really rise in temperature and everything that is related to rise in temperature is in the eye of the cyclone, as we said. When it comes to precipitation trends, it's a little bit more complex because we have some models that kind of project one future and some models that project another future. So let's say that what will really happen is that the spatial distribution of precipitation is irregular. That means mountains area will behave in a different way than plains area. But generally, so some of the models said the precipitation will be less, some of the models said the precipitation will be more, but generally it will be more erratic, more difficult to forecast. So there will be more irregular precipitation going forward. I just wanted to spend 1 minute in understanding, because, you know, as I was saying before, language really is important because it gives you the idea of what we're talking about. So what is a climate projection? So a climate projection is not saying on Sunday, now today it's Wednesday, on Sunday is going to rain. That's not a projection, that's a forecast. So projection is basically where you okay? Is there any question there?
No, just need for small technical clarification. Everything is okay.
Yeah, so this is quite important. So if you want to then take the time to explain in Armenian as well, because this is difficult also for English speaker, because that's really. So climate projection are not climate forecast. It's not saying, is it going to rain in 2 weeks? Or are we going to have a warm summer? That's not projection, that's climate forecast. Climate projection is when you take a climate system and you simulate a response of all physical components. So the atmosphere, the stratosphere, etc. And you do that by using scenarios, because projection change when you change the component. For example, if we keep emit as much greenhouse gases as we are doing now, we have one scenario and one climate projection. If we emit the half of it, we have another scenario and another projection. So it's very, very important to understand that projection are models that depends not only on what the environment is doing, but also on what we are doing as a society. They are not set in stones, they could change. Is this clear? Because this is also is quite a key concept for climate science. Is this concept clear? Do you have any question about it? There is a very good resource which is in here. I can also copy in the chat, which is a glossary from the IPCC. So the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and there is full of glossary and definition and language, and also does explain more complex things like what kind of pathway are used, what is a pathway, etc. I don't think you need to go into such detail, but knowing what a projection is, I think is very, very important. So this is the glossary I was talking about, if you want to look up for some resources. Now, let's go back to the projections. So we understand that projection are model. So there are many different models, and then what the scientists do, they take an average. So you have different scenarios with different model, and you take an average to say, okay, a projection in 30 years with this specific characteristic is telling us that the temperature will rise 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degrees, etc. I did prepare a little exercise, but I'm not sure, Tigran, if you want, we can skip it and just go to the result, whatever you want to do.
No, we can do. I think what also
Yeah.
general feedback from the ground, those who gather here, is that such simulations and games and quizzes are really good learning instruments. So yes, let's not skip. Let's
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to give instruction to the one online, and then I'm going to give instruction to you on the floor. Okay.
Okay.
So everyone online, please click on the link that I just put on the chat. Click on the link that I just put on the chat. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to click on the link and to share my screen. Give me 1 second when I do that. Okay, so have you clicked on the link? This is what climate scientists use. So obviously in climate science, it's a very complex science. You don't start from scratch every time. That would be terribly long and terribly complicated. So what do? You use information that are already there, that are already out there. So this is the climate knowledge portal. If you, Tigran, can also click on the link that I put in the chat so you can access the climate knowledge portal. And this is really, so this is the landing page. As you can see, this is where you arrive. So can people see the website of the World Bank on Climate Change portal? You go to country, so select country, and you can select any country in the world. Can you see any country? Any country that is recognized by the UN. So like Somaliland, for example, is not there. So you must be recognized. So let's go Armenia. Let's go into Armenia. This is where all the climate information about Armenia have been collected in the last. Tigran, can you mute, sorry, the floor, which we can hear people talking. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, so this is where all the information about Armenia have been collected in the last 50 years. So you have an overview of the country, a summary of the country, the current climate, and then the climate projection. So let's go and have a look. Let's play a little bit with this stuff. For example, if you want to see what the climate of today is, you'll go here, current climate. And here there is a description with all the data. you know, temperature, an average of temperature, minimum, maximum, the precipitation, and what we call the baseline. That means the period up to today. So in this case, you have data from the early 90s, because I guess this is when the independence happened. So you started collecting data in a more organic way. So you can go here and see how the temperature have, or the precipitation have behaved in the last year. So I now invite you to do this little exercise. Go to climate projection, which is this tab, and play with it a little bit. Play with it. What does it say? So if you go here, you can choose, you have two things. One is the map of the country, one is the variable. Let's say we want to know what is going to be the maximum temperature when, let's say, in the very far future, 2080, end of century, and what scenario we want to use. Now, let me introduce you to scenarios, because you will keep listening to this word. What is a scenario? A scenario is what we were saying before. When we do a climate projection, it's not a forecast. So there is no one answer. There are many, and they depend on what socio-economic and physical condition the world is. We have different scenarios. Now, you don't need to understand the real technical, but bear this in mind. Scenarios with the smallest number are very optimistic. Scenarios with the highest number, these are worst case scenario. So this is like the best case scenario, 1.9. This is the worst case scenario, 8.5. 4.5, it's called business as usual, and means this is the scenario if we keep doing what we are doing now. This is what is going to happen. 1.9 is we do best, so if we do better, if we reduce emission. And 8.5 is we are the worst in class, so we are emit even more of what we're doing today. So if you play with this, you play with what you want to look at, you play with the time period. Now, the ones that are playing, look, can you see that everything is become red? That means we're going to die from rising temperature. This is like the worst case. Okay, if I play with it, if I put back, see, if I use another scenarios, which is more optimistic, here the temperature decrease, the temperature increase, decrease to a greener level. So play a little bit with this, play a little bit, don't touch calculation, only the variables. If you want to see the temperature, if you want to see the precipitation, and then the time period, what is going to happen tomorrow, and then the scenarios. The scenarios, you can use the worst scenarios, the best scenarios, and you will see the change. I'll give you 5 minutes, just get used to this portal, because even if you don't use it, if you're going to review some technical document, if you're going to decide on a project, if you're going to read a summary, an executive summary, and you know what climate data are, how they work, where they are, who is working on that. So this is really, as I said, a superpower. And then take a little bit of time to read only this summary. This is a non-technical summary, so it's not complicated. It said the model is going to warming, what is the highest emission, etc. So have a little read, spend 10 minutes on this portal and ask me question, and I'll give you five minutes to play a bit around with that, okay? Any question, please do ask me in the chat. Okay, can people access the climate knowledge portal? Did you find Armenia? Did you find this page? Let me know how you're doing. Okay. Anyone from the online people that wants to share what they have discovered, or any question, or how are you finding to navigate the climate knowledge portal? Anyone that wants to say or ask anything?
I can say for first.
Sure, Yervan.
So as we can see, all changes are, all the world is impacted. As if we are scrolling out the map, we can see that in case of any changes, the world is going worse than going better. And with our local efforts, we can't change anything. So the effort should be done globally. Am I right?
I think you touch a very important, because, you know, until one talk about models and reduction of greenhouse gases, it is very abstract, it is very theoric. So I think it is important when you look at the map, when you look at a map that shows you, well, you know what, if you keep doing what you're doing, this is what will happen. You're going to have average temperature that are 10 degrees greater. You're going to boil as frog. So I think that really embodies what we should do. While if you keep below the 2 degrees, this is going to happen. You're not going to boil as frog. And you touch on a very important concept, the human being, they succeed as a community, they don't succeed as individuals. So the effort should be global, because otherwise we are going nowhere. So this is why you're going to become climate change champions. And this training is so important. Any other comments on this climate change portal? Any other problems you had while navigating it, or any discoveries that you made? I will be very happy to listen to you. I know it's a technical instrument, but you're smart people, so I didn't want to give you the simple thing. I wanted to show you what the scientists and people in the sector use. I think is good to know what the tools are. Any comment from the floor, Tigran?
Comment yeah, we played with the diagrams and using different scenarios, and realizes that it's quite realistically demonstrate what is actually projected for Armenia. Yeah, 1.5 to 2 up to the 2015. Yeah, so like trying to understand the logic how this instrument works, and realize that it's quite realistic. That was our conclusion.
Good. So if you can now visualize a bit, I'm very happy. Good. Let's move on. So as you can see, we have different paths, different model, different projection. So let's say that here, for example, in the left part, you can see the trajectory, okay, of the annual temperature if we stay on an optimistic model. So we are reducing our emission, we are doing climate finance good, we're good. And the red path, so we are in the worst case scenario. So what Armenia is risking is a 30 degrees as an annual average. So this is really gives you an idea of where we are. But in general, what does the future hold? What does the future hold? So great uncertainty remains around future change in average annual precipitation, while in temperature, there are more solid conclusion is going to rise. However, as we have seen yesterday, most model predicts an increase in intensity and frequency of extreme precipitation events. What does it mean? That means that even if the average of the rain, of the precipitation during a year is not going to change, what could change is that you maybe have very few days with a lot of water. And what does it mean? It means that you are going to experience flood. You're going to experience mud floods, landslides, so extreme events. So the problem with precipitation is that you don't have to look up at the average during a year. You have to look up how the precipitation is coming to you. Is it coming in regular rains, which are good for the crops, or are they coming concentrated in very few days, but enormous amount of rain in few days? So these are the risks. So here I summarize the main climate hazard for Armenia, which are related to rise of temperature, so heat waves and drought risk, and to mud flow, landslide, and flood risk. So this kind of concentration of precipitation in lesser days. So this was my part really on the climate and the climate of Armenia. Part nationally determined on the national determined contribution, if you want me to go on. And then maybe you focus on other climate treaties and the scaling up program in Armenia. What you think? We say Latin, silensus assensus. No words. Shall I go on, guys? Let me know. Okay, so what is the Armenian nationally determined contribution, the NDC? A little bit of stories. So the Republic of Armenia ratified the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1993. In December 2002, Armenia ratified the UNFCCC Kyoto Protocol. Tigran, do you want me to go on with this or?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
I will skip whatever you mentioned already, so no problem at all.
Well, actually, it's going to be interesting because another thing that I would like you to understand when it comes to climate finance is that the way we calculate emission, the way we calculate the footprint, it's very much a gray area. So calculation can be different depending on which source you're using. So I'm going to show you in a second what I mean by that. So I will be interested to see your presentation if using different sources, we have different results, for example. So this is a little bit of story. Armenia is behaving very well. She has signed everything she could. She has produced the first NDC in September 2015 and then ratified the Paris Climate Agreement 2017. So the underlying principle of the intended, they call it intended NDC, INDC, but it's the same, are these ones. So to limit global greenhouse gases to 20, that doesn't exceed 2 degrees. The principle of intra-generation equity. We have seen this principle yesterday with Marta. It does mean that the use of resources today doesn't have to impact the use of resources tomorrow generation. And then the ecosystem-based approach. And these kind of details, maybe I leave you to go into that. What I wanted to tell you is what the targets are. So Armenia said that they want to stay within the 630 megatons carbon dioxide equivalent for the period of 2015 and 2050. But I find that big numbers when it comes to carbon emission doesn't mean anything. What does it mean 633 megatons of carbon dioxide equivalent? What does it mean? In reality, what does it mean? And what does it mean at 5.4 tons per capita? Is it a lot? Is it a small number? What's the average of the world? How the other countries are doing? So I think to give you an idea of what is out there, it helps you understand these numbers.